I'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to the meeting this evening for the Appleton Area School District Board of Education. As most of you have probably surmised by now, I am not Kay Eggert. Board President Kay Eggert is out of town today and will not be attending the meeting, and I will be chairing the meeting in her place. We will start with roll call of our fellow board members. James Bacon.
Here.
I'm here. Jason Kolpak.
Here.
Peng Tao. Here. And as far as we know, Nick Ross will be joining us, but maybe just running a little bit late. With that, let's all rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Chris is on.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Chris Sauter.
Here.
And Chris Sauter is joining us virtually. I didn't see that. Thank you. Let's all rise for pledge of allegiance. Okay. The consent agenda has been posted, and I assume everyone's had a chance to look at it. Are there any board members that wish to request to remove any consent agenda items? Okay, seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Is that a roll call vote? All in favor of approving the agenda, signify by saying aye.
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 And the agenda is approved and set. With that, we will turn our attention to our school board representative report for the evening. Olivia Fang from Appleton North.
All right, thank you so much. So I just have a couple of updates to share from Appleton North today. So first, we concluded our Hadestown musical performance after a successful 2-week run. It was really amazing. I saw it myself, absolutely incredible. And many were saying that this was the best musical that North has ever put on. So that was really awesome, a really cool milestone for us. And then also with the performing arts, we have an improv show coming up, which is like our improv and comedy troupe, and they're performing on April 4th. So that should be really good. And we're all excited to see that kind of come to fruition. Also, we have multiple like student groups right now on overseas trips in like Italy and Spain and France. So that's been cool. And I'm sure it's been a great bonding experience for all of them. And then we are in between sports seasons right now, and our spring sports have just started. So I don't have any sports updates for y'all, but hopefully next time I come, I'll have some spring sports updates for y'all as that kind of goes into swing. And then lastly, we concluded a very successful ACT prep class that we ran at Appleton North High School. So this was the second time we've done that at North, and we're hoping to eventually maybe expand it to maybe Appleton East and Appleton West as well. Basically what we do is we just have ACT high scores in the past, like 34 plus scores, kind of like organize these classes and come in and teach kind of the tips and tricks that they did to score high on that particular section. So like science, reading, math, English. And then from there, the students kind of can like learn the tips and tricks. And we had over 100 attendees at our sessions. So it was really incredible, and the students seemed to really enjoy it, and we had some great feedback. So yeah, those are just some of the updates I have for North. Do you guys have any questions or concerns or comments or anything like that?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, I do. Well, it's not a question. So I just wanted to give our school board representative a shout out because in February, I was able to through my work, attend a statewide teen youth leadership conference called the Teen Summit. And it's a wonderful conference led and put on mostly by youth who give different presentations on a wide variety of different topics. And I was lucky enough to see Olivia's presentation for her work with the group Patch, which is, please, can you help? What does it stand for
It
again?
stands for Wisconsin Providers and Teens Communicating for Health.
Yes, and it was a really excellent presentation. I learned a lot about the social determinants of health. I learned, and also I loved that Olivia and her peers were basically giving a presentation on how to advocate for yourself as a young person in the healthcare system, and then also how to advocate for bigger systemic changes in healthcare systems. So I thought it was really awesome, and congratulations. You continue to like soar, and yeah, just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Anyone else? I will echo your comments. I had a chance, like many board members, to go see Hadestown. It was fantastic. You would have literally, you would have thought you were at the PAC. So
Yeah.
fine, wonderful
Incredible.
job.
Yeah.
And you must be getting close. Graduation must be coming up. Is everyone getting, are all the seniors getting excited over at North?
Yes, absolutely. Our graduation like speaker applications just went out, so that's exciting too. And we're doing a lot of prep for grad work. I know a lot of seniors are like kind of finalizing their college decisions right now too. So our students are also diligently working on posting that and getting that kind of that recognition on there. So it's been really good.
That's wonderful. Always a very happy time in a student's life. A little sad, right?
Yes.
Big change, but
Definitely.
I hope you enjoy graduation thoroughly.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, of
Much
course.
appreciated.
Yeah.
I also, while we're talking, if you don't mind, this is more Appleton East, but I just wanted to extend congratulations to the Appleton East Band for their selection and participation in the parade and ceremony to honor our Vietnam veterans. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it when they return, but that took place this weekend in Honolulu. It was a great honor, and it was a great experience for those students, and very proud to see Appleton being able to represent there. I'm sure a tremendous amount of hard work went into preparing and performing that. So a real nice event for our students. Anybody else, any comments or questions? Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you. Thank you.
With that, I will move on to public comment. We do have one person with public comment tonight. I just want to someplace where that. Lost my papers. Oh, yes. Okay, would be much more. I need to read the statement just to remind everybody about public comment. The school board welcomes public input and provides an opportunity to hear directly from individuals at board meetings. Individuals wishing to speak are asked to complete a registration form. But before we hear from you, there are just a few reminders I want to share. First, individuals may speak up to 3 minutes. An individual speaking on behalf of a group may speak for up to 5 minutes. We will have a timer running so you can keep track of your allotted time. Please adhere to the time limits to be fair to all. Please know any comments exceeding the allotted time may be submitted to the board in writing, because we are interested in everything you have to say. The school board does respectfully request that speakers refrain from presenting comments that introduce complaints or concerns that are directed towards or identify individual staff members or students. As such, personnel-related and student-related matters implicate a variety of rights that require careful attention. The district has established alternative procedures for appropriately addressing such complaints. Please visit our website and review policy 870, or you may direct questions to the office of the superintendent. Please keep in mind that speakers retain all liability for their comments and conduct. False statements or statements stigmatizing others may subject the individual to legal repercussions. Conduct that is disorderly or any speech that is obscene, threatening, harassing, or defamatory is not permitted. Wisconsin open meeting laws allow for only a brief discussion of topics that are not on the agenda. Therefore, we may not be able to fully address comments you shared tonight. With that, our speaker that is registered for this evening is Mr. Oliver Zarno. Please come forward. State your name and make sure your microphone is on.
I think we're good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to address the board once again. My name is Oliver Zorno, and tonight I speak as a parent of 2 elementary school students here in the district. Tonight's comments are my own and don't necessarily reflect the views of any organizations with which I may be associated. As a result of the failed revenue limit system imposed by the state, districts across Wisconsin are facing financial ruin. In less than 15 months, our own bank accounts will be dry with an anticipated undesignated fund balance of negative $3.5 million by the end of next school year. With this reality, I was surprised to hear the suggestion at the last meeting that we continue to inflict insufficient wage increases to remain competitive and implement up to $5 million in additional cuts to already scarcity funded schools. Over the last 4 months, I have had the tremendous opportunity to visit with PTOs, educators, and families from schools in every corner of this district. Neighborhood, charter, old and new. I have yet to encounter a single person who is not frustrated at the scarcity investments that are impacting their schools on a daily basis. Similarly, the shock that they see with the simple solution that stands in front of us. Our community values investments in our kids. This resonates loud and clear with every interaction I've had. We know that the best use of our resources to ensure our community continues to thrive is to ensure that every graduate is socially, academically, and emotionally prepared for success in life. Over the past few months, the board has been presented with harsh realities. While there are tremendous things happening in our schools on a daily basis, thanks to our dedicated team and our supportive community, we are not meeting our vision of success for every student every day. To do that, we need to strengthen our systems for listening to and authentically learning from our community, ensuring adequate and appropriate investments in our schools, students, and educators. Only then can we create the culture of accountability to ensure our vision becomes a reality. Allowing a path forward that simply plugs the hole or less assumes that continued decreases in the tax rate are more important than addressing the startling reality that only about half our kids are reading at grade level. Educators fundraising online for pencils, erasers, and Band-Aids for their classrooms. The canceling of several advanced class offerings, growing inequity in facilities, schools with counselors present less than 1 day a week, and the fact that scarcity investment and poor planning led this board to have to close an elementary school earlier this year. Our community does not value yet another unsustainable tax cut over addressing these issues and other issues impacting our kids. If ever there was a moment our kids needed advocates, it is now. And you are the only people in the whole world that have been given the power to change this reality for the future of Appleton. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. There are no other speakers registered, but if there's anybody else that would like to come forward, seeing none, I will close public comment for the evening. And we will move on to items number 6. There's no business service update or school services update, but under 6C, we have a personnel service update. Just like that, Julie King has come to join us to talk about new hires, contract changes, rescinding of retirements, and resignations. Julie, it's all yours.
Yes, thank you. So we do have 4 items for the board's consideration under the superintendent's consent agenda. Those are 8A through D. They consist of 17 new educator hires, 5 educator contract changes, 1 educator rescinding of retirement, and then 4 educator resignations. Are there any questions on any of those items? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item C. There are 4 items on the board's consent agenda. The board minutes from March 10th. Sorry, 3 items. An expulsion meeting minutes from March 10th and the expulsion meeting from March 18th. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ping Tao.
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
Ed Ruffalo,
Aye.
Chris Sauter,
Aye.
Jason Kolpak,
Aye.
and James Bacon.
Aye.
Thank you. Now move on to the superintendent's consent agenda. Superintendent Herches.
The superintendent's consent agenda includes 4 items for your consideration. Those 4 items were reported on by Julie King during her personal services update, and I recommend approval of those items, 8A through D.
Are there any questions for Greg, or is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval of the superintendent's consent agenda. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ed Ruffalo,
Aye.
Jason Kolpak,
Aye.
Ping Tao,
Aye.
James Bacon,
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
and Chris Sauter.
Aye.
Thank you. With that, move on to item 9, reports to the board. And we have an update from Nan Buno tonight related to a very important topic, the Columbus Edison transition. With that, Ann, it's all yours.
Kayla's pulling up a document. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to provide an update to the board related to the Columbus Edison transition.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is your microphone on? I'm having a little trouble hearing. Okay, thank you.
So since we last talked, the Edison Columbus transition team met on Wednesday, March 12th. And the goal of that meeting was to finalize the project and task list for the transition. And so as you can see with this document, it boiled down to 4 transition related projects were identified by the team, as well as a list of potential tasks that were developed to guide the group's work. And then for each project, 2 of the transition team members were identified as leads for that work group. And then we brainstormed a list of suggested team members, knowing that folks that wanted to be involved weren't necessarily on the transition team. And so we broadened it to a general brainstorm list that the leads could use as they're forming their work groups. So I'll go through each of the work groups just to give you a flavor of what each of them will be doing. The first work group is a Safe Routes to School work group that will be partnering with the City of Appleton and the Safe Routes to School organization to determine what are realistic walking routes from the current Columbus attendance area to Edison. They have already light bulbs that have been put on the sidewalk in the Edison attendance area, or portions of it, to identify those walking areas. And so we're wanting to make sure that that consistent marking goes through the new Edison attendance area. Also looking at different options related to vehicle traffic patterns, etc. But you can see this was a list of potential tasks that was put together to guide the group. But as the group comes together, there will be some synergy and some pivots that they'll make as they work forward with these topics. The second group is introducing Edison to the Columbus students. One of the things that we're going to capitalize on is that the middle school transition day is Wednesday, May 14th from 12:30 to 2:30. So all of the 5th graders at Columbus will be at their next year's middle school. And it gives an opportunity for those students that are planning to attend Edison to come over to Edison as well. And so this group will be working to put together a plan for different stations that could be provided, presentations, welcome bags through the student council, but they'll be putting together that afternoon as far as a student transition opportunity at Edison School. In addition, this group is going to be putting some videos together about the building, as well as a video of staff members that can be shared prior to open house, so that they students that maybe perhaps weren't able to participate in the transition day will have an opportunity, as well as to introduce new staff that maybe are hired over the course of the summer. The third work group that is coming together is planning a special event, a transition event for Columbus families at Edison. This you can see there. It's going to be an event most likely in May, where the families can come and tour Edison and get to know the building and the staff. So that's the third group that's going to be meeting. And then the fourth group, we know it's not going to be called Link Crew, but I think we're all familiar with Link Crew for 9th grade and about what that has been done. A wonderful program at our high schools to welcome freshmen into the building. But it's a Link Crew idea program that'll be put together that will allow some current Edison students to be part of this Link Crew and to be put into small groups with students that are new to Edison next year, which will include the Columbus students, but also any other new students that that arrive at Edison. And we think that this, at least the thought is that this isn't just going to be a one-year thing. This is something that they'll adopt and will be a co-curricular like activity where students can come forward, some intermediate students, to partner up with new students, particularly at the beginning of the year. But then, as you can see, they're also talking about possibly some different activities to continue throughout each quarter of the year. So those are, again, the potential tasks that the teams put together that were brainstormed by the transition team. But now there's these individual groups that are coming together in the next month to put some legs underneath these ideas and to finalize the plans. The next page is kind of, it was a catch-all of all these other tasks that came forward from the transition team to be accomplished. And in this case, these transition tasks were assigned to either an individual or a group of people. So you can see that there's a list of items for the Columbus, for Joel Cannon and the Columbus staff and PTO to focus on. There's a very long list for Joel and Katie and myself to work on as far as all the other things that we will put into place. We'll take the lead on. The third column involves the community schools resource coordinator, which should be hired within the next week or two. So even though we don't know who that person is yet, they already have a list of things to accomplish. And then finally, the Edison PTO, some things that they're considering as well. So I'm not going to go through each and every one of the tasks. They're there, but particularly one that's very timely right now that is coming together this week for Columbus is the Columbus, I think they're calling it the Columbus commemoration group that's going to be putting on the opportunity at the end of May. So we should, their first meeting is this week, and my next update, I'll be able to have a little bit more information about that event. But we certainly want to capitalize on providing an opportunity for current Columbus families as well as alumni to come back to the building and to recognize its historical impact on our district. So the Edison Columbus transition team will meet again. Our next meeting is Wednesday, May 7th. And this meeting will be an opportunity for all of these leads to come forward and provide an update to the transition team on their work. It'll also be an opportunity for them to seek the transition team's feedback on any of their ideas, as well as provide an opportunity for transition team members to ask questions and provide guidance to the work groups or to the task masters on that final page. In addition to what the transition team has been doing, a survey was sent out to all Columbus K-4 families in February regarding their intended enrollment for next year. And then at Columbus, they held their conferences, parent-teacher conferences in early March. And so for those families that indicated in February that they were either unsure or that they were going to Edison, a follow-up survey was provided during that conference time that secured their feedback related to such topics as what their plans are for their children getting to and from Edison next year, interest in before and after school care, as well as their interest in different types of family transition activities that could be provided this spring and summer and fall. And so, and then the final question was just basically, do you have any questions or concerns about the transition? So we feel that this cadence of this initial survey and now directly to the families that we know are for sure going to Edison or potentially could be, this information that we're able to collect from them is going to help guide the work of these work groups and task teams, as well as provide administration the opportunity to provide timely feedback to their questions or their concerns. So we really feel at this point that we're in a very good position with our transition plans, and look forward to the stakeholders coming together in these work groups, as well as to start moving forward on some of those other tasks to have those accomplished by the spring when we're actually putting these plans into action. So with that, are there any questions?
Just a question for you, Nan. I saw one of the headings was the community schools resource coordinator. So I'm assuming from that Edison is definitely going to be a community school starting next year.
It is.
Are people excited about that?
They're very excited about that. And the intention is to have that person identified in April so that they can, first of all, begin their knowledge base, working with the community school resource coordinators at Dunlap and Jefferson, as well as with Julie Barkholz as the coordinator, but then also be an integral part of this transition planning to help bring in that community aspect as we move forward.
And I know, in fact, we had an email from Brianne Conley, who's part of the historic neighborhood group. It's a very active group, I understand. It sounds like, are we connecting with them and they're participating in this planning as well?
Brianne's a member of the transition team and has been very helpful as far as communicating out to members in the Columbus attendance area that do not have students at school yet. And so that we're able to reach out to them so that they're aware of what our plans are.
And we're also making sure we're connecting, because it is a change for Edison too. I know some of the parents expressed some concerns. Are we also connecting that set of stakeholders?
Quite a few of the Edison PTO members that are on the transition team, and then they're working with Katie Schmelzer, the principal, to relay that communication out to the families. We are in the process of planning a more formal communication out to both the Columbus and Edison families. We wanted to get all of this transition work done and present it to you, and then we'll be getting a form of communication out to them as well, related to what I just shared with you.
And then just a final question, because a change of this magnitude is always going to generate some apprehension from our families and our stakeholders. As you and the others from the district have had a chance to begin to interact with and engage with the stakeholders in the neighborhoods, are they, what is their mood? Are they enthusiastic, or are they beginning to understand the changes, and are they appreciative, or is there more that we could be doing to support them?
You know, I really have to lean into the transition team because we have members of the staff, the PTOs and administration. And in general, there's a excitement on the part of the Edison community to welcome the Columbus families, and almost to the point where we're like, we need to let them finish out at Columbus. And so that's been understood. You know, there initially was, well, should we be inviting them to our school events at Edison now? And it's like, no, they have their Columbus events now, and we'll do that in the spring. So we really had to work through that excitement, but to temper it a little bit. And as far as the Columbus, I think our approach to really provide in February that survey, and then if it was an opportunity, would you like a call from the school? And Joel was able to follow up on each one of those regarding individual concerns. But now this follow up at conferences with a teacher, with the principal, with the counselor there. I feel my sense is that the families feel supported because of the fact that we're doing the outreach and wanting to address their individual questions. And sometimes it's not even about the move. It could be you know, that where's the drop off and pickups things. So, and that's good information for us so that we can make sure we get them that information in a timely manner.
And just one last comment or appeal to both you and to Greg. We only have one chance to get this right. And so if you do need something, if there are concerns, if you need resources, please bring that forward as quickly as you can so we can resolve any issues and make sure that this is a very smooth transition. Thank you so much. Anybody else with any follow-up questions? Chris, did you have a question, please?
Yes, I do. I have a couple. Thank you, Ed. You asked many of my questions already, so thank you. I do want to say thank you for the report out tonight, and I know Brianne Connolly reached out also to the board to invite us to some events, so I appreciate that as well. Nan, do you have how many will be
No, we have right now we have 20 confirmed students that are attending Edison. There are 16 that are unsure at this time. So a lot of them, when I looked at the feedback, it was their family may be moving and they're not sure. So those where they are identified and we're working with those families. 11 are moving out of district, so they will not be attending AASD schools, and 8 have indicated that they're planning on going to a different AASD elementary school. And when I looked at that, some had applied for school of choice to a different school. Some have applied for charter school enrollment, and some of those 8 are going to their, they live in a different neighborhood, but they are school of choice to Columbus, and so now they're planning on just attending their neighborhood school instead of moving to Edison. So that's the survey information we have. So the 26 and the 16, those are the ones that we are targeting as far as that second survey.
Thank you for that. And then when you meet again on May 7th, are you anticipating that you'll have all of the dates put in place, if not all the details for the different events that will be happening?
Yes, that's why we wanted to meet as early. We had to find that sweet spot to give the work groups enough time to pull together and meet and make those decisions, but then enough time to get the dates out to families. So yes, we felt that was about the right time. But there's going to be some things like the Columbus commemoration and that day that we've already determined for the Edison or the Columbus students to come over to Edison. Those dates have already been set.
So do you already have the dates for the Columbus commemoration then, or is
No,
that to be determined?
But though they're meeting this week, so they will be picking that date, and that's going to be something that they can move forward with without going through our committee. And as is the transition day on May 14th, those are dates that already have been set.
Thank you.
Yeah. I was just gonna say the event for the transitioning families at Edison, that date hasn't been set, but that will be in May at some point.
All right. Well, and hopefully we'll get those dates to get on our calendars as well. I'm sure some of
I
us.
definitely will pass them off to Kayla so it can be in your update.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks too to the community members who are participating in this too. It's obviously a very large project, and appreciate all the different perspectives. So thanks for your report.
James.
Yeah, first, I just want to also echo the thanks for the report. It's helpful to get a sense of it kind of in this way. And I think it's helpful to have it, for our community members that are, whether they're invested or involved directly or just helpful in general. I think it's just really helpful to have this space. So thanks. Also, Chris and Ed asked a lot of the questions I had, but a few follow-ups. You shared some enrollment projections, or at least the survey for the Columbus families. Have we done anything in a similar nature for Edison families, or, that would impact enrollment projections on that side of things, knowing this is a change for both Columbus families and Edison families?
We have not. Certainly, we're actually meeting this week on school of choice was determined. What the deadline has passed, and so we will be meeting this week to review those requests. So that will be an opportunity for us to look at that. But no, we have not chosen to survey Edison families regarding their plan, their intention. It will happen. All of our elementary schools, as we get to May, do that, but we haven't done anything special for this circumstance.
Sure. In the nature of not over surveying, I think that makes sense, but just wondered. I would say at the next update, though, it'd be helpful to know if we have any evidence of any kind that is impacting what enrollment projections might look like at Edison for those that are already there this year too. Just knowing we heard from many community members that just had a lot of questions, and I'm just curious to know what might play out from there.
I definitely can bring that forward.
Awesome, thank you. And especially maybe how it compares to historical trends or something too, if that's kind of how we're looking at it.
Yeah,
but whatever you have. And then the plan's not pulled up anymore. So, but I know you said that you're planning, I think it was on a Wednesday afternoon, Columbus students going to Edison. I assume that's during the school day. And so I was wondering, is that being treated kind of like a field trip where kids can opt in to go, or they don't have to go, but they can go? And if they're not going to Edison next year, there'll be other opportunities for them. Is that
Yes,
kind
thanks
of the
for-
idea of how it's being planned?
Yes, thanks for asking that. We do have one of their tasks is to plan an activity for Columbus students that are staying back that aren't going to Edison next year, because that's important too, that they have an opportunity to do something. That they will be putting the details on that. But yes, it is just like a field trip. So we would be seeking parental permission, just like we do for when they go to the middle schools.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, are they walking, do you anticipate, or will they be bussed over for the field trip?
I assume they'll be walking,
Okay.
but that will be up for the group to discuss.
Cool. Just thought I'd say it might be an opportunity for the walking school bus to see it in action, you know, but
yeah. And certainly that's
Anyway.
something that one of the questions that we asked on the survey is if we put a walking school bus in from Columbus to Edison and Edison to Columbus at the end of the day, would they participate in that? Because the follow-up survey is going to give us additional information about what they're looking for.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the update. I appreciate it.
I have a question. I may have missed it, but where did you say the fifth graders were going to go next year?
Fifth graders, that is the transition day for all of our middle schools, for our fifth graders from the elementary level to go up to the middle school for their orientation. So we figured if that was a good time, the fifth graders were already going to be, most likely the Columbus kiddos are going over, the fifth graders would be going to Kaleidoscope. But if they're choosing to school of choice to a different school, it's all at the same time. So we thought we would piggyback on that, since the fifth graders are already going to be doing that, and we'd offer the transition opportunity as well for the Columbus students that are planning on going to Edison.
Any final questions for Nan? Seeing none, thank you very much for the update, Nan. Okay, we'll move on to item 10A, updates of OE12 on facilities. Ray and Joe Sargent, please.
Good evening, everyone. The part of our update is basically on our facilities upgrades to the money that we have available to us. Normally we meet in November with the different buildings, but because of the referendums, we haven't been doing that to look at capital improvement projects. So Joe has put together a slide with the different budget numbers and where that money would be assigned to. So,
all right, thank you. So similar to last year around this time, we just presented our 5-year capital projects plan. We are these general categories. I can go over them if you wish, but they're just the categories that Mark Hansel and I kind of developed over the years to try to just make sure we touch every piece of the school and still leave room for miscellaneous projects that come up. So with that said, similar to last year, this is one more year of the referendum summer, so we don't anticipate having a whole bunch of different categories. We narrowed it down to asphalt replacements. We have a project at Berry where we're completely replacing the parking lot at Berry. And then we have a project at East High School because Ray and his referendum project are taking half of that parking lot anyway and kind of redoing it. So we just decided we'll throw some capital money into it and reconstruct the entire Schaefer Street lot. So we added money for that as well. I have money in there for $100,000 in contingency. Now that's just water heaters breaking throughout the year. There are different HVAC units. It's mostly plumbing and HVAC related that just kind of happens throughout, or other circumstances stuff that may pop up, like a water main break or something like that. I have a $50,000 in capital projects. So that's kind of like an investment that I want to do an engineering study on Morgan, just to make sure that building subject, we need some windows at some point in time here soon. And we kind of want to combine that with HVAC related that building's kind of put together throughout the years, kind of hodgepodge in terms of air conditioning and HVAC related. So I kind of want to just do a study with windows, HVAC related, and some structural, just have a structural guy look at foundation. It's an old building, and so it's old stone foundations. So I'm kind of thinking maybe having a study on that just to see where we're at building wise. I also have thrown in there our projects for roofing came back really good this year. So I think the roofing numbers have dropped back from pre-COVID times or COVID times where insulation was through the roof. So we have really good numbers at Madison. So we're doing mostly Madison this year and a shingled roof over at Night House facility. And then I have $225,000 for tuck pointing. So we are starting a process to kind of systematically go through the district to kind of look at the exterior brickwork, masonry, make the repairs. So we focused on the West Cluster buildings this year. We have 2 major projects as part of this at West, to do the entire building, including the smokestack, and then the Wilson has some work. And then there's a couple of miscellaneous pieces throughout there. So that's kind of what I have planned for next year. The following year, we weren't quite sure. I don't have specific projects laid out, but I anticipate next year kind of being hard because we're going to still be finishing up these projects. There's a lot of work for my office that has to get done, updating our records, updating our maintenance plans and roof plans and all this. And so I don't know how much time we'll have to like get through the buildings to kind of, as Ray mentioned, prior to Ray being here, Mark, his predecessor, and Greg and I would kind of walk these buildings, talk to principals, kind of get a list of projects, and then put together our plans in there. So I don't know if we'll have time for that next year or not. And so I didn't put all that in our sheet. So knowing that'll come in the future, then start back up on that. So that's about all I have. Are there any specific questions?
I just have one. I noticed there's a line item for asbestos abatement, which concerns me a little bit. It doesn't seem like we're anticipating much. To your knowledge, do we have asbestos still in any of our buildings, and where might that be found?
There is asbestos in our building still. Typically, that'll get thrown on there when we do like flooring projects and ceiling projects. I leave a category for there. We typically will lump it into a project though, so you might not see that on a yearly basis, but there is abatement happening. We had some for the referendum. Every time we do a project, you're required to go through a survey, and we have that done through our environmental consultants. They test everything, and then we plan from there. So if there's asbestos, then we have to hire a separate company to come in. So that's still ongoing. To answer your question, we don't have any specific projects that we have to take it out that are large enough to qualify for here.
It was my understanding that our security systems, cameras, et cetera, are beginning to age a bit, but I don't see anything in here to look at that going all the way through 2029, 2030, or would that be a separate project, or how might that be addressed?
So that's been funded in the past on other funding issues. We have the DOJ grants that gets wrapped up into miscellaneous projects. A lot of times, if we do an office remodel, like we're doing a lot of security upgrades on schools we're working on for the referendum. I don't have anything there, but that's not saying we can't add anything in the future as we go. Because yeah, some of the systems are aging, and so next year when we meet, if we have to start putting money into the cameras or upgrading the infrastructure for that, we will.
And there's some nice advances in technology for like the tap for assistance and some things that are weren't available, quite frankly, just a few years ago, that may be worth looking at as well. Okay, thank you. That's all.
Make sure David Will, our security guy, we share offices basically, so we'll stay in touch with him, and I'll start having him look at that for the future.
Are there other questions this evening?
I was just going to say, it kind of strikes me that this isn't so much a 5-year plan. It is kind of a 2-year plan. Is that because of all the time that's being spent on the referendum, or once you have a chance to work with the individual buildings, are we able to plan out further?
Well, historically in the past, we've kind of had it a 2-year to 5-year or 2-year plan, and then we kind of left it a little bit more generic like it is now, just because every year we walk and certain items or priorities shift during those years. We always have the main big ones like roofs and parking lots. We're always going to have to maintain those in our heating and ventilation equipment, but it's been left generic because it's not specific projects at the time. So it does get more laid out once we start meeting with the buildings again, but the last 4 years we've been heavy on.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if the requirement in OE 12 is a 5-year improvement plan. Is that a reasonable expectation or no?
I think it's pretty typical, right? I think it's reasonable. We just have, this is how it's been, where we've kind of left it generic in case things change. But if we just decide to make it more specific, we certainly can do that. And then update that as you go. I think it's hard because, but it's not unreasonable.
Joe, can you think of an example of something where we are projecting out like 3 years from now where we can say, all right, and I know in a regular process, we might have 5 roofs on a list, but we have priority 1, priority 2. And so that would be a situation where we probably know this roof doesn't rise to the level of these other 3. And so that is going to be more like a 4 or 5 years from now. Can you talk? That's kind of what I think Jason is asking about.
Our roofs are on you don't see it here, but our roofs are all on a plan where we kind of look at it throughout each year. But then what we do is we meet every year during the fall and say, okay, how are roof leaks looking like this summer? Here's where the plan says we need to be on roofs. Here's where our actual leaks are. How are we doing? So sometimes that changes. Like that roof is beyond its age, but it's holding up pretty good. But I got problems over here, so that kind of stuff will switch a lot. But those roofs are extended out. I mean, that's done on a regular basis. Gets updated every year. So I guess that's a really good example. We know for parking lots, we know what needs to happen. We're catching up really well on our parking lots and playgrounds. So I anticipate, in 5 years from now, we're going to be able to pull money off of that area. So, I mean, we know what schools we have to hit yet. It's just not shown specifically here. We know, I know we have another document that shows our fire alarm systems, the ages of those, our PA systems and the ages of those. So it wouldn't be terrible to put this on here and just present it every year too. That's what we'd rather see.
Just by way of follow-up, because I can imagine with the referendum activities, we've been very focused on that. And outside of the referendum dollars, of course, budgets are very tight. So I just want to give you an opportunity to let us know, is there something out there that we're not in the plans just because we don't have time, we don't have dollars to get to it, but we really should? I mean, I want to be right. We want to be smart about how we spend our money and not leave ourselves a big problem down in the future.
I see it as us doing pretty well in terms of, I mentioned the roof systems you can see it from our leak reports that every year we're getting less and less leaks in our buildings. I know we're catching up on our parking lots, HVAC related. I mean, we've got a lot of old equipment, but we've been able to outside the referendum, we've been able to keep up systematically replacing boilers and bigger units and air conditioners.
I would just say one of the areas to focus on, and Joe kind of brought this up, is evaluation of some of our older buildings like Morgan. He's going to do the study on Morgan to see where we're actually at. What needs to be done with that foundation? What needs to be done with some of the heating and cooling in there? I mean, that's probably one of the bigger things. These aging buildings, Columbus and Morgan and those are getting to even Wilson and West. Are older buildings that we have to do a lot of evaluation on. West, we got a coal bin, we got to deal with coal bins yet. and those kind of situations. So I would say those are the ones that we might get surprises on, like we might have to handle things, and there might be some large dollar items that we need to take care of. But I would say that otherwise, I think there's a very good plan with every one of our systems.
It's upgrading classrooms and upgrading when I say that, I mean lights and ceilings and floors. And I mean, prior to referendum, we've been doing that. We started making a focus on that, but I mean, you're not able to catch up very far because we do, 10 rooms a year prior to the referendum, but that only gets you so far when there's 1,000 classrooms. So, but I feel like we're able, if something needs to get done, we're able to get it. We've historically been able to get it done.
I know a lot of districts and organizations, public and private, are looking very carefully at their lighting plans because there's so much energy to be saved by moving to different lighting systems. Can you give me an idea of where we're at? Is that in the works for us, or perhaps we've already been doing that over time?
So each one of our buildings, so not only are we replacing lights with LEDs, especially in the new construction, but all of our older parts of the building, they have a 5-year rotation. So they replace all of the 1/5 of the building, or 1/5 of the building. They replace all those lights, and then they have a rotation of that. So we do studies on that to see where we're saving money and the bulb replacement on that. So we take the bulbs that are still good, replace them in the other 4 areas. So there's a constant rotation of that. But every year, 1/5 of the building gets replaced with lighting in every one of them.
And then the transition over to LED, that's a longer process. We don't have that's hard to do because it requires a lot of dollars. Like, just to give you an example, one classroom, just if you're going to replace the lights, replace the ceiling, then at the time it's between $12,000 to $15,000 for one room. So, and you can reduce that a lot when we do the work, but we're only capable of doing so many rooms. So a lot of times that doesn't get done. So my biggest fear is 10 years, 20 years from now, and what LED lighting is. And like now, Ray said, we can just replace bulbs and it's done super cheap. But to replace an LED light, you got to pull the whole light, replace the whole light, and then it looks like these aren't LEDs, but I would replace that light. Well, that light 10 years from now is going to look different than the rest of them. So then at what point in time you make that switch over, and you're replacing everything again. So that is a fear in the industry. LED lights save a lot of money energy wise, but there's still a big cost up front. And we're working on it. Like North, we're probably about, I'd say 2/3 of the way done with North. We've been sinking a lot of money into North because you can't buy when those lights break at North, you can't buy anything to fix them anymore. So we've been slowly sinking about 80, prior to referendum, about 80 grand a year into North just to get those lights. So in several years, we'll have North done, which will be a huge, it's a big facility. So,
and certainly one of the advantages of being slow is if it's a little slower going in, then it's a little slower.
Correct.
They're not all going to burn out if suddenly don't have a 7-figure investment because all the lights are burning out across the district. Right. So, but thank you. Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much for the information.
Thank you.
Next, we'll invite Holly Burr to present on the resolution for awarding the sale of 25 million general obligation promissory notes for April 21st, 2025.
So at the last board meeting, Eric Cass from PMA and I presented the plan and the options for issuing our last $25 million associated with the 2022 referendum in the form of general obligation promissory notes. And we talked about kind of what that format would look like. So tonight you should have a resolution in front of you, basically asking for approval of that resolution so we can do that closing on April 21st. Any final questions?
Just by way of reminder and summary, the referendum that passed November 8th of 2022 authorized 129,800,000 of bonds. We issued $90 million of bonds January 4th, 2023. An additional 14,800,000 were authorized and issued June 3rd of 2024. So the 25 million that's being offered today is the final amounts of bonds covered by the referendum. That 25 million will then bring us up to the 129,800,000. So with that, I'll see if there's any questions for Holly.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution as submitted.
Thank you, Nick. Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chris Sauter,
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
Ed Ruffalo,
Aye.
Jason Kolpak,
Aye.
James Bacon,
Aye.
and Peng Tao.
Thank you. The next item for consideration is the policy update, policy 151, which is basically a policy on policies. This was presented at our last board meeting and went through questions. Any additional questions on this policy before we act on it? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jason Kolpak,
Aye.
Peng Tao,
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
James Bacon,
Aye.
Ed Ruffalo,
Aye.
and Chris Sauter.
Aye.
Next, item D, another policy update from our policy committee, doing really good work. Policy 154, school board advocacy. This was also presented at the last meeting. And if there's any final questions on this policy before we act on it. Seeing none, would someone like to offer a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Peng Tao,
Aye.
Ed Ruffalo,
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
Jason Kolpak,
Aye.
Chris Sauter,
Aye.
and James Bacon.
Aye.
Item E, the monitoring report, OE7 for asset protection. Greg Hartjes, please.
So OE7 has several indicators and they fall under different areas. So Holly Burr, some fall under the area that would be considered business services. Many fall under tech services, and then others are in tech services or facilities and operations, and then tech services. And so there was one non-compliant indicator as was decided when the board went through this at the work session that was held on March 19th. And so that is 7.4.3. And Scott Ruffalo was here to explain that. Scott is our Director of Tech Services. He explained the different ways they go about doing their best to secure our network and all of our information, but didn't necessarily follow that indicator. And so we decided that that was non-compliant at this time. So made that one change based on what we discussed during the work session. And so we have 19 compliant indicators and the one non-compliant.
This was presented at a board work session, but give us opportunity if there's any follow-up questions before we move tonight. Nick.
Not a question. I do appreciate the way what you just talked about, Superintendent Hart is described in the monitoring report so that we can refer back to it when we come to reviewing the OEs. So like if those things continue, like I like that it's very easy to find when we're going back, when we will be going back to it. And that reminds me, I'm making a mental note in front of everybody who's listening at the next policy committee meeting, just to check in on what our our reviewing schedule is for that.
Seeing no other questions, we have a motion to approve.
I'll move approval of OE 7 as presented.
Second. Roll call, please.
Jason Colbeck,
Aye.
Chris Sauter,
Aye.
Nick Ross,
Aye.
James Bacon,
Aye.
Peng Tao,
Aye.
and Ed Ruffalo.
Aye. That it completes item 10, board business. Just an item of information. Board docs, my understanding, is being retired, and we are transitioning to Grannis Peak, and that will be the new way of seeing the agendas and the materials that are posted to the board. And that starts when, Kayla? Well, it starts tomorrow. So today is good night to board docs. I understand it should be a very easy transition for people. In fact, it's probably better than board docs. So that'll be a positive. And board members, I know Kayla has offered to provide training or any support that you may need, since being able to access the documents for us is very important for our duties as board members. Please do take that opportunity as needed. So, and then as future meetings, just as tomorrow is election day, don't forget. And then the Board of Canvassing meets on April the 7th at 11 a.m. here. We have a work session coming up April 14th prior to our regular scheduled board meeting at 4 p.m. And then we have a board meeting on April the 14th at 6 p.m. And then finally, our looking out ahead, we have a work session on April 23rd at 7:30 a.m. With that, there are no other items before us on the agenda. May I have a motion to?
Mr. Ruffalo, if I could,
Yes, of
just
course.
be on the item of information. Granicus. So for the public, will they be able to access that in the same, places on the website they were able to access board docs? Okay, and that'll go live tomorrow for them as well, or? Okay. Okay, awesome, thank you. So yes, community members should be able to access Granicus board information tomorrow as well.
If a community member or member of the media did have a problem, who should they contact? Email you or contact? Perfect. Thank you. Any other final comments? Good. Otherwise, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All in
Second.
favor? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I get to actually use the gavel. Meeting adjourned.